Hiya, and welcome back to Heart of Amethyst. The game that teaches us that I don't know where we are. I truly don't know where we are. Are we over here? Or are we somewhere over there? I don't fucking know. Like, if I open up the load menu, all these are broken, by the way. Those are all broken. So we can't use them. So we're gonna go chapter select, and I don't know what fucking chapter we're on. I don't know. Yeah, apparently the Minecraft Ether update is where we're at. I genuinely don't know where we are. If anyone knows, please tell me. Because I am actually freaking the fuck out right now. This is... It's lost media. Anyways, I think try 3 and skip. Alrighty, well, we're gonna do Acalis, our boy Acalis. Did you win or lose the fight against Eddie? We lost. After meeting with the unique character and once his talk with Acalis was over, Eli makes haste back to the main event. All the royals seem excited about what is to happen, and Eli couldn't possibly be more confused. So there's only one possible thought in the fox's mind. What was the fuss all about? Do you want to start here? Yes. Upon returning to the Grand Hall, I noticed that most of the crowd had already moved to the front of the room, leaving only a few stragglers behind. No, we lost. We lost. To give you an idea, do you know when we fought Eddie? Do you know when we fought him? Almost 2 years ago. Let that sink in. Those who remained were still eating or talking with other guests. Felt a surge of curiosity, and not wanting to be left out, I decided to walk alongside the other royals. Some of them seemed nervous, but most of the people present looked rather excited, expectant even. I couldn't help but wonder what the fuss was about. So far, I've been kept in the dark about the political undertone of this event. For me, this was just a birthday party, but I'm sure that for most of these people, this occasion has a deeper meaning. I really don't like it. We already did the Dawn Course update. It was epic. I really don't like it when I'm left out of the loop, but there's nothing much I can do. It's partially my fault, though. I was so focused on gathering information about my sister that I forgot to ask about what would happen here tonight. Oh well, better not dwell on it. It's not like I can do much about it. Please gather round His Royal Majesty, Prince Brandon the Fifth. Please gather round His Royal Majesty, Prince Brand. That is the most normal fucking name here. Like, please don't take offense to this. That is the most normal fucking name. I didn't. It released yesterday for me. Yeah, released yesterday. Lord Brandon of Borrington. Compared to the others, it's so normal, and I love it. I am here for it. Please gather round. His Royal Majesty, Prince Brandon the Fifth, is going to give a speech shortly. A butler with a rather tremendous voice announced that for everyone to hear. Can Brandon be the secret route? And with that, even the people that had stayed at the back moved to the front of the room. Being distracted as I was, I didn't notice when a strong hand grabbed my wrist, immediately turning me on my feet. Whomst? Standing just a few feet behind was a large and stern-looking Ruby. She looked down at me with those red eyes of hers, not smiling, but not frowning either. Stoic as always. Ruby? You are required somewhere else. Please follow me. Okay. It's all I managed to say before she started pulling on my wrist, guiding us around the crowd with ease as she's taller than most of the attendants here. There was no need for any pushing, though, as they all moved aside, not wanting to interact with us in any way. First, I thought it was because of my bad reputation, but to my surprise, I'm not the one receiving all the nasty looks. It was Ruby. Some rows were even avoiding the maid as if she had the plague. Could it be because she's intimidating? No, I don't think that's the case. They didn't seem to be scared of her, mostly disgusted. In any case, she paid them no mind as she traversed the hall towards one of the side corridors. I know! She's so tall, I love it. You see, okay, so there's no option for NSFW. Damn. I wondered if she would feel offended if I asked. Although she most likely wouldn't answer, so I'll have to ignore this burning curiosity and just keep going. After we exited the main hall, we immediately went through a smaller corridor and entered a side door, which leads to an even smaller corridor. She then opened a door, which led me to a room where the 3 other retainers were waiting for me. It was really dark, to say the least, the only light source being a small gap on the door through which Roderick was keeping watch. Good, you're finally here, Roderick said with a stern voice, not taking his eyes off the gap. The wolf has his arms crossed and he was leaning against the door frame. Meanwhile, Almond seemed to be deep in thought as he looked into the ceiling and Acollis quietly read a book. Did I miss anything? Not yet, but almost, Acollis replied, taking his eyes off the pages of his book and meeting my gaze soon after. He really looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. What do you mean? King is already at the throne. The birthday speech will start shortly. Roderick answered in Acollis' stead, and the younger wolf rolled his eyes at that, resuming his reading. I wished to ask why everyone seemed so on edge, but I felt like that would be a bad idea, so I didn't want to worsen the mood. I know, he looks so pretty. Why are we all crammed here? We're the old man's retainers. We need to be close all the time. Especially in these public events, mate. Have some respect, damn it! I think Acollis. Bite me, old man! Kinky. The 2 wolves growled at each other, trying to demonstrate dominance over the other. But why here and not out there? Coming up with a quick question, I tried my best to de-escalate the situation. Those 2 really hated each other's guts. Because the only ones allowed out there are the royal family members. Acollis responded as he flipped the pages of his book, not even caring to lift his gaze as he spoke. It's already starting. Back to his usual self, Roderick said as he opened the door a little wider, increasing the field of view of the outside.
It's time to drink
water. I walked
water.
closer to him, trying to watch what was going on for myself.
It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water.
Oh my god! I'm sorry, it is, I'm assuming the princess's face. Huh? Just the face she's making. Just like, oh my god, I don't want to be. Oh my god. The light blinded me for a split second as the contrast between the room and the outside was quite high. From this angle, I could perfectly see the king, who was sitting on the golden throne. He's accompanied by Princess Dahlia, who is wearing a beautiful emerald dress. Meanwhile, a line of guards was forming a perimeter in front of them, separating the crowd from the royal family. Isn't this supposed to be the prince's party? But I haven't seen him all night. That's because he's been busy discussing political matters with the king all night. Nicholas answered that question from behind me. It's not often that all the viceroyals, cardinals, and the royal family are all together in one single place. One cardinal. The rest of them didn't even bother to show up. Roderick added to the conversation, but before I could continue asking, we heard a large cheer booming from the outside. People were going haywire out there, and as I checked to see what was causing it, I was met by Prince Brandon V himself. I can't get over the name. This was my first time ever laying my eyes on the man. He is a big-looking wolf with gray and white fur covering his whole body, with a few spots of a dark red showing in some areas of his head and neck. He was muscular, maybe too muscular for a prince, as I could see those bulging muscles even under all the layers of clothing he had on. If you ask me, he was bigger than Roderick. I couldn't give you a straight answer. Not that any answer coming from me regarding this topic would be straight at all. Okay, relatable. Moving on to what he was wearing, the man clearly didn't spare any expenses. He was wearing a very regal-looking leather suit, with a white shirt tucked underneath it and a pair of pants tied up with a leather belt. And to top it all off, a beautiful red silk cape which covered his right arm and combined perfectly with his deep red eyes. Wow. I said to myself, unable to believe how good this man looked. The prince waved and smiled as he made his way towards the throne. Once there, he kneeled in front of the king and then faced the crowd, who eagerly waited for the wolf to speak up. Members of the Canine Kingdom, I welcome you all to my 28th birthday celebration. I'm sure you must have been enjoying the food and the company so far, and I'm greatly sorry for making you wait this long. As you must know, dealing with royal business is a tough job. He joked and the whole room bursted with laughter. I personally didn't find it funny, but I guess I can't. I'm not a royal and I've never had to deal with royal business, as the prince called it. Brushing that comment aside, I watched closely as the wolf asked the crowd for silence. Before I start, some acknowledgement is in order, as none of us would be here if it weren't for my grandfather's efforts and support. Thank you all kindly for all you've done, my king. The man bowed and the crowd politely offered the king a round of applause, to which the old king answered with a smile. Then the prince asked for silence one more time. We all know it's been a difficult year for the kingdom. The constant threat of barbarians looming over our eastern border. The frailty of the peace treaty with the birds in our northern border. And the increase of crime, delinquency, and piracy within our own territory. I'm sure all of that has led us to be scared for our lives and fearful of the kingdom's stability. But I assure you, my friend, the viceroys, the royal family, and the church are working their hardest to maintain order. Every problem shall be dealt with in due time. That I promise you tonight. No, I didn't. The crowd clapped even harder this time, making the prince's grin grow even wider. It seemed like he was really enjoying basking in all this attention. Now, before we continue to enjoy ourselves, there are a couple of announcements that I must share with all of you. I could feel the crowd holding their breaths. Everyone seemed to be on edge, hungry for any sort of information the prince could give to them. First and foremost, I am extremely happy to announce that my dear wife has been blessed with our firstborn. Hold on. Dilf? Dilf? Is he a Dilf? Does he count as a Dilf? I think he counts as a Dilf. Not after I'm done with him, just kidding. The royals clapped for the third time, and at this point, I wondered if their hands were getting itchy. Thank you, you are very kind. Do we want to do that? Yes, we do. I don't think you need like a deep voice in order to be a DILF. Thank you, you are very kind. Sadly, my wife is still weak from birth and couldn't make it to today's celebration, but she sends her regards. We are both very happy. Aw, damn, and he's happy too. Sad. Our son, Johannes the First, was blessed with great health and was born without any setbacks. We will make sure to raise him properly so he can one day become a great king. Just like his great-grandfather, his great-uncle, and all previous kings that came before them. Everyone seemed really happy about the prince's announcement, all of them clapping their hearts out. Now, carrying on with the rest of the announcements, I would kindly ask Lady Petra to take the stands. That's when the prince stepped aside and a scrawny-looking woman took the stage in his stead. As the prince did that, I could see the wolf lady I met before taking his place. Icalus's cousin. She seemed rather nervous to be in front of so many people, and I honestly couldn't blame her. It had to be nerve-wracking to be up there.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
And, oh. Oh my. Oh my. I just noticed him, and hang on. Oh my. Ah, fuck. Did I fuck something up? I think I fucked something up. How many screenshots did I just take? Yes, I took screenshots. I'm about to find out how many I just took. A gazillion, probably. Let me check. 35. I took 35.
People of the Canine Kingdom, I'm here to present to you the latest discovery in my investigation about minerals' qualities and their potential uses.
Yes, seriously. Wrong button. Wrong fucking button. Yes, I took 35.
I know many of you think this is not important, but this is the discovery of the century. I assure you. So please. Please.
Settle down. Once she said that, the girl started her explanation. To be honest, I disconnected after a while as she proceeded to explain a lot of scientific details about the different types of minerals and their influence in magic. Luckily, the prince decided to intervene after 10 minutes of babbling. Dear Lady Petra, I'm sure we will all read your paper once it's published, but if you please, could you get to the point?
Yes, sorry, Your Majesty. As I was saying, the main problem with quartz is the fact that they merely reflect magic. They can't store it or amplify it. Well, until now. I have modified a mineral into being capable of doing both of those things. Allow me to present to you the Amethyst Fragmented Crystal.
As she said that, she took an amethyst crystal out of her dress and presented it to the public. I could barely see it from here, but I noticed that the crystal was shaped like a pendulum and it was shining brightly. It wasn't that big, but it was big enough to cover most of the palm of her hand.
The crystal, by its own, it's worthless. It's actually one of the cheapest gifts you can get in the market. But when it's cut at a certain specific angles and exposed to some particular conditions, it becomes magically inclined.
She seems to be getting more and more excited by the passing second. It was like seeing a child showing off her new toys to their peers.
Now, Your Majesty, would you allow me to demonstrate?
The girl turned to the old king and the man nodded, which made her visibly light up with glee.
Prince Brandon, you are a red-eyed wolf, am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. The younger wolf looked confused at her question, raising an eyebrow at the lady. Honestly, can't blame him. I've been there. And she is a confusing individual. In any case, she didn't seem to pay that any mind as she carried on.
Now, could you hold this for me, please?
She handed him the amethyst pendulum-shaped crystal, and the prince cautiously grabbed it.
If you may, could you point it toward the ceiling, please?
He did as he was told, cautiously walking a little further ahead from where the king and the princess were. Meanwhile, Lady Petra was smiling from cheek to cheek.
Now, apply enough force to break it. It shouldn't be too hard.
You want me to break it?
Yes, please. Don't worry, I've made hundreds of those.
Very well. This is... Before anyone could acknowledge what was even happening, a bolt of lightning tore through the ceiling and landed itself on the ceiling, damaging part of the art. Everyone gasped and screamed at this event, unable to comprehend what just happened. All the guests were in a state of shock, and that included the prince himself, who dropped the crystal to the ground as if it had burned him. Meanwhile, the guards were trying their best to keep everyone calm, but people seemed uneasy.
Please, everyone, remain calm. Everything is under control.
Petra said with the biggest grin on her face.
As you can see, even the prince, who is a red-eyed individual, has managed to do elemental magic. I want you all to imagine the hundreds of uses we could give to these crystals. The possibilities are endless.
She acted like a mad scientist, and everyone was more weary than impressed at this point. Yes, thank you for such a unique display. The prince coughed as he tried to compose himself. He seemed a little freaked out, but he was trying to play it cool for the sake of the party. Here it is, everyone, the future of the kingdom. Thank you so much, Lady Petra. At first, the guests appeared to be unsure if to clap or not, but eventually they budged and clapped anyways. Fuck. Hang on. Petra smiled at the crowd and then walked away from the throne. I can't believe she actually made it. I heard Akala speaking from behind me, so I turned around to meet his gaze, but he was lost in his own thoughts. There was a mixture of anxiety and worry spread all over his face. I can only guess this is about what we talked about earlier. He was probably scared to the core about the fact that his cousin could replace him any minute now. It's not often that Akala shows his emotions, so seeing him like this was making me feel a little uneasy. Before I could comfort him, though, Roderick turned around and spoke to me. Speech is over. Let's go. Where? The king wishes to talk to you. Come, I'll take you to him. The face he's making. He was like, the king wishes to talk to you. Come, I'll take you to him. For a moment, I was unsure of what to do. It is the Akalis route. I kind of wanted to stay and make sure Akalis was okay, but at the same time I felt like this was probably important. I mean, the king requested my presence. It's not like I could turn him down. So deciding to leave that talk with Akalis for later, I exited the door, following Roderick closely. I really hope he'll be okay. Back in the main hall, I noticed that most guests have gone back to dancing or talking, not paying much mind to the king and his grandson who are still lingering by the throne. I still don't understand why you can't let me announce it. Conversation between the two seemed heated. But, like always, the king acted calm, contrary to Prince Brandon, who had seemed to be on the verge of an anger fit. What must I do for you? The king asked him to stop as he saw us approaching, forcing the prince to change his tone in his face. The old man gave both Roderick and myself a small nod of acknowledgement, and so did the prince. Brandon, I want you to meet Sir Eli. Sir Eli, this is my grandson and heir apparent to the throne of the Canine Kingdom. Brandon the Fifth. Brandon bowed respectfully and I imitated him, lowering my head as a sign of politeness. You've got quite the reputation, Sir Eli. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Okay, Roderick is slightly taller. He's got a very kind and warm smile, and I couldn't help but blush a little as he kept staring at me. Likewise, sir. It's, pleasure. Anything else I can do for you, my lord? No, Sir Roderick. You're free to enjoy the party. Roderick bowed and then looked me in the eye one last time before leaving our side. I wondered what that was about. He seemed worried for some reason. Although worrying about Roderick was the least of my problems, because now I was left there with the two most important people in the entire Canine Kingdom, and I had no fucking clue of what to do or say. Great. Luckily, I didn't have to come up with an icebreaker, as it was Brandon who shattered the awkward silence. So, Sir Eli, my grandfather has told me you grew up in the lower city. Yes, sir, that is correct. Impressive. Looking at you now, I wouldn't have guessed it. Except for your accent, perhaps. The man chuckled and I tried to grin, but soon decided not to, as I didn't want to look awkward. And he has made some outstanding advances in his swordsmanship. He came toe-to-toe with a trained knight in a practice match. Did he now? I wish you could have seen it. No, you didn't. I actually lost. But I came pretty close, though. In any case, let me bore you no longer with my mindless talk. There is something really important we must discuss, and it concerns the both of you. Suddenly, the king's face turned serious, and he adjusted himself properly on the throne. I could feel myself getting tense, but so did the prince. It is no mystery that I'm not getting any younger. My time in this world and my time as king are coming to an end, and as much as I don't want to admit it, it's time for me to take a break. Brandon, you are an outstanding member of our family, and you have fulfilled most of my expectations. I certainly could not have asked for a better grandson. I'm really proud of you. My king, please, don't talk as if you'll die tomorrow. You still have your best years ahead of you. The king laughed, and I saw the prince visibly relax beside me. How I wish that were true, my boy. But age doesn't forgive, and I have come to a decision regarding your coronation. Brandon tried to hide his excitement, but I noticed a slight wag of his tail. As amazing as you are, my boy, I must admit that I have coddled you too much, and in doing so, it has prevented you from truly understanding the needs of our people. That's the main reason why I still hold on to the throne, and hence, why I didn't allow you to make the announcement yet. So in order to help you understand the lower class better, I have decided to appoint Sir Eli as your royal advisor. At that exact same moment, both my jaw and the prince's dropped to the ground. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Me? A personal advisor to the future king? That was madness. I hardly knew anything about politics, and I hardly knew anything about advising. It seemed like the prince shared my sentiment, because not a second after those words had left the king's mouth, he started to protest. Grandpa, please, I beg you to reconsider. Sir Eli shows great potential, yes, but to put him in such an important role is insane. As much as I wanted to feel insulted by his comment, I couldn't agree more. I was doomed to fail from the start. What was this man thinking? Well, it's obvious he's a senile old man. Yes, of course, I agree with you. Sir Eli is still unexperienced and immature. And that is why starting next week, you two will be in a trial period which will last a year. Hey, Prince Brennan, let me whisper in your ear. Depending on how you do, I will either extend or reduce this trial. Once it's done, I assure you the crown will finally be yours. The prince closed his mouth shut and looked away, gripping his fist so hard I thought he was going to draw blood. And Sir Eli... The king turned to me, his typical smile being present. I know this is a surprise and there is no way to prepare you for such a task, but I humbly ask you to accept. I truly believe you are a ray of hope sent to us by the goddesses, and you would be doing this kingdom a great service. The stare of both the king and the prince froze me in place, making it impossible for me to process the severity of the situation, and even worse, to form a single sentence. Oh no, right? Spending a whole year with Prince Brandon is such a horrible fate. JK, just kidding. So there I was, stuck in place like an idiot, with the two most important figures in the entire kingdom staring daggers at me. This is too much. Get acquainted with the idea through the week. And that goes for the both of you. By the time I go back to Rose Island in 7 days, we will reach a decision. Grandpa, please. And that is final! He shut the prince up in a matter of seconds. It's honestly impressive how such a tiny man is capable of controlling such a big individual. The power of the crown in all its glory, I suppose. It's like those power bottom situations, but in this case it would be really weird and extremely creepy. Not to mention disturbing and disgusting. Actually, how about you two spend the rest of the evening together? I'm sure you have lots of things to discuss. Brandon and I exchanged glances, then we turned to the king and nodded. Of course, as you order, your majesty. Yes, of course, sir. Splendid! Off you go, then. And with that, he hushed us off toward the party. This is so silly. The prince and I didn't speak at all while we were together. Not because of the lack of opportunities to do so. On the contrary, there were many chances for us to indulge in conversation as we were left to our own devices. But I was honestly too nervous and I didn't know how to approach our situation. And I'm sure he's got a lot on his mind too. So we decided to spend most of our night in silence with only the occasional guest who would come around and ignite a conversation with His Highness. He didn't seem to enjoy much the company of the other royals, though. Notice that he felt uncomfortable when they approached him. The fur at the end of his tail tensed up, his lips curved to form a fake smile, and his eyes twitched for a few seconds. These were such minor details, but they made me wonder if he was always this socially awkward. Not that I was criticizing him or anything. If nothing, this made me like him more because it would mean that we had something in common. Or maybe I was just jumping to conclusions and he was merely on edge after what the king said. I mean, I would be too if all of a sudden my fate depended on a total stranger that came out of nowhere. Honestly, what is that old man thinking? Has he gone completely senile? I really wouldn't even know what to do as royal advisor. Like, they're the ones that keep the kings from making terrible mistakes, right? Do I really look like someone with enough common sense to fulfill that role? Almost blasted the king of the canine kingdom to pieces not that long ago. Clearly, making good decisions is not my strong suit. Oh, goddesses, and I thought being a retainer was already too much pressure. Hopefully, the king will reconsider. But what if he doesn't? Should I turn it down? Am I even allowed to do so? He told me to think about it, but it honestly felt like I don't have much of a choice. I was trapped in the king's game again. He did it once when he appointed me as his retainer, and he was doing it again. I sighed deeply, making the prince turn my way. Not wanting to bother him, I offered an apologetic smile, but his eyebrow raised nonetheless. I see you're as distressed as I am. Forgive me for ignoring you. I've just had a lot on my mind. Wow, I wasn't expecting this type of treatment. He was the polar opposite of his cousin. No, please, don't apologize, Your Highness. If nothing, I should apologize instead. I'm the one standing between you and the crown. The man squinted his eyes, probably analyzing what I just said. You're planning to accept? I don't have much of a choice, do I? I'm supposed to follow his orders. I suppose so. He added nothing else, his words carrying a bit of disgust hidden among indifference. Felt like I needed to tell him something, because if I don't, he's going to think I'm doing this on purpose, and that's not it at all. Your Highness, what do you think would happen if I say no? I don't want the spot as much as you don't want me to take it. The prince scoffed at my comment and then turned his gaze towards the throne, where currently no one was sitting. Hard to say. My grandfather has always been a complex man. He enjoys plotting silly games like this one, and when they don't work, he plots the next. I could kindly ask you not to take the spot, but then he would find another reason to not make me king. And then another. And another. It must be very frustrating. You have no idea. As he fell silent, I thought the conversation was about to end again, but to my surprise, he continued talking. I've lived my entire life preparing for this role. Ever since I was little, I was told I was the only heir to the crown. Can't imagine what that kind of pressure would do to a kid. It was rough at times, but I got used to the idea and it eventually became my dream. I wouldn't change it for anything. I felt a strong surge of sympathy running through my body. Can't say I've been in his position, but I kind of understand what he's going through, as I know what it feels like to have your dreams snatched from you over and over again. Each time I thought I had a lead on my sister, I would end up on a dead end, just like him with the crown. I guess you can say I relate to him, at least to some extent. At that point in our conversation, I really wanted to tell him something to make him feel better, but as I was about to open my mouth, we were interrupted by the arrival of another guest.
The energy of youth is certainly something both of your auras sparkle like stars.
Cardinal Cassian, what an honor to see you again. Enjoying the party? Quite. For an old man, the goddesses have blessed me with such a strong stomach. The old coyote bowed his head at the prince, and then he grinned as he acknowledged me, doing a little bow as well. To what do I owe this pleasure, my good man? Is there anything else you need to say to me? The prince spoke with his regular princely voice. He was a completely different man from the person I was talking to seconds ago. He changed from sweet and vulnerable to strong and stoic. Almost like he put on a mask. No need to be so formal, my friend. I am just here to chat. The man said with a kind smile, rubbing the top of his belly. I took a glance at the coyote as I felt a shiver running down my spine. He was not facing my way or even talking to me, but for some reason, I had a vague hunch that the man's attention was on me and not the prince. Unless I'm interrupting something. No, don't worry about that. Sir Eli and I were merely chatting, right? Yeah, don't worry about it, sir. Good. I'm glad my presence isn't causing any discomfort. The cardinal announced happily, making the prince and I share a look of understanding as we agreed to leave the result of our previous conversation to be discussed at a later time. First of all, I must congratulate you about the baby, sire. Life is always a blessing. I cannot imagine how much glee you must be experiencing right now. I don't know. Yes, quite. We had been trying for years. It almost feels like the goddesses didn't plan for us to have an heir. Thankfully, it seems like they changed their mind. The goddesses never change their minds. If they blessed you with a son now and not before, it was because it was probably not the right time. Yes, of course. Silly me. The prince forced a smile, and I couldn't help but notice that this one seemed more fake than all the previous ones, as if he was actively trying not to show any real emotion. It made me wonder if the cardinal had struck him the wrong way. By the way, my lord, how is Lady Rose faring? I heard it was a difficult delivery. Really? But that's not what... Oh, never mind. He probably said that with the intention of pacifying the expectations of the other royals. Damn, that's smart. Makes sense, though. If someone has to keep things under control, that would be the royal family. I see your sources are very well informed. The cardinal just smiled, not admitting to anything and not showing any sign of remorse. To ease your worries, she'll live. But the healer said she would most likely not be capable of birthing another baby. Oh gosh, that's terrible. It's what I would have said if I wasn't stuck in place, too scared to interrupt their conversation. Almost like a little kid not wanting to interrupt mommy and daddy when they're talking. Thank the goddesses, they blessed you with a male heir then. Yet another proof of their holy mercy. As if that was their mercy. I didn't want to imagine what their wrath was like. Gosh, that's messed up. Yes, the royal line is thin enough as it is, almost as if it had been cursed, don't you think? Silence set, the prince spared me a quick glance and then looked at the cardinal with a blank expression. The cardinal, on the other hand, seemed surprised, but quickly hid that fact behind a grin. Nonsense, my lord, it's just been a couple of hard years. I'm sure everything will be better from now on. The goddess would never abandon their favorite children. Oh shit, I think I see what you mean. Hold up. Yeah, I think I see what you mean, unless that's just blush. The cardinal offered the prince a reassuring smile as he patted his belly with his only available hand. Let's hope you're right. As the conversation was about to die, the cardinal decided to open his mouth once more. By the way, my lord, have your grandfather and yourself given the church's proposal any thought? That piqued my curiosity, as I didn't know the royal family had any close deals with the church. Though to be fair, there are many things I don't know. The king insists on not letting her go, and I must abide by his choice. Although if you wish to do something about it, it's up to you. For the time being, that's all I can do. Very well, I shall request an audience with the king in the near future to discuss it personally with him. The prince didn't respond to that. He just looked to the side and nodded. I also took a glance in that direction, but I couldn't notice anything in particular. Was he looking at someone among the crowd? If you'll excuse me, I have some important matters that cannot wait. Have a good night, gentlemen. He said out of the blue, offering a small polite nod at the both of us as he walked away. With the prince no longer here, I really didn't want to stay nearby this old man. So I tried to sneak away, but before he could, he shifted his attention towards me. Quite the character, wouldn't you agree? Damn, so close. I really didn't want to be there. But I decided against being rude, so I answered him. Yeah, sure is. The goddesses work in mysterious ways. I raised my eyebrow at these cryptic words, but it wasn't like he could see that. He could have seen it. Also, the fact that he wasn't directly looking at me was really off-putting. I would never get used to that. In any case, please don't let me keep you from this beautiful party. It was a pleasure speaking with you. The cardinal chuckled lightly as he slowly walked away from me, quickly getting lost among the rest of the guests. That uncomfortable ache in my throat didn't leave with him, though, as I was now sure there was something going on behind the curtains between the royal family and the church. It made me feel uneasy to think about all the political drama I was getting myself in, but I guess this is what I signed for, or what my hand was forced to sign. Either way, I could really use a drink right now. Alcoholism. After a few hours passed by, I started to feel really overwhelmed. The amount of people, the loud noises, the music, the alcohol. It was too much for little old me. So I decided that the best thing that I could do was to step out for a few minutes and take a break. I gazed at the sky and noticed how low the moon was already on the horizon. Must be way past noon already, so it wouldn't surprise me if I see the sun rising anytime soon. Goddesses, I really wish I could be laying on my comfortable bed right now. I said to myself as I strolled through the empty castle hallways without a destination in mind. From where I was, I could still see the party. Everyone seemed happy, or at least they pretended to be. The young royals were dancing to their heart's content, the older guests talked and made strategic connections among themselves, and the ladies laughed at their lord's jokes or danced alongside them. All of them performed brilliantly at the game, knowing their places and measuring their actions. Everyone except for one person. My eyes landed on her as they trailed around the castle's facade. Princess Dahlia, who often acted all high and mighty, was at the time behaving not at all princessly. She was by the other side of the garden, lying on top of the fence with her arms tucked around her head. Had she been crying? I couldn't tell from where I was standing. Or perhaps she was feeling a little tipsy, although I never saw her drinking a single glass of wine. In any case, all I knew with certainty was that the girl was not interacting with anyone, nor was she even trying to be sociable. And that was not a usual behavior in these kinds of events. Curiosity started to eat me alive, so I decided to approach her slowly, not wanting to startle her. I personally wasn't the biggest fan of Princess Dahlia, but I did love gossip. As I got closer, I could hear the unmistakable sound of crying. Being a few feet away from her, it was time to make a decision. I could go and try and comfort her, but in reality I wouldn't know what to say and I could make things worse. Or I could just leave her alone, although she is clearly distressed and in need of comfort. So I will... Shit! Fuck! Damn! Damn! We're gonna ask her. I may not like her much, but I'm not heartless enough to just leave. Besides, even if I probably won't give her life-changing advice, the least I can do is be there for her, just keeping her company. That's what I would like if I were in the same situation. Light shines bright inside. What is that? So with that in mind, I decided to move closer to her. Give her enough space so she wouldn't feel uncomfortable, but I was close enough for her to notice me. I touched her shoulder with my hand as a sign of comfort and understanding. As expected, at first she didn't even acknowledge my existence, but after a few long and excruciating seconds, she grunted. What do you want, Eli? Nothing really, just wanted to make sure you were alright. I am, so leave me be. Okay, Eli, deep breaths. This is to be expected, and you decided to stick your nose in her business. And as Mom used to say, patience is a virtue. Did something happen? Did someone tell you something mean, or perhaps... What part of leave me be don't you understand? The princess's voice cracked as she raised it at me, keeping her head buried in her arms still. She probably didn't want me to see her crying. And her makeup is most likely a mess. I'm just trying to help.
Well, you aren't. We can't care.
No one can. I could try to understand.
As if you have it easy, you're born with a fucking dick.
Wow! That shut me up for good. I've never seen her so upset, nor have I ever heard her using this kind of language. Damn, okay. Damn. For some reason, it just felt different when someone like her used it. I mean, I always thought she was this perfect little princess and that she was only a little bratty from time to time. But I guess that was wrong on its own. I shouldn't have made assumptions. Sorry. That's all I managed to say, hoping it would make her feel better to some extent. But it didn't, as she started to cry even louder. Oh, fuck, what did I do? And what did she mean with that dick comment? No, I should not focus on that. I need to focus on getting her to trust me. Somehow. When I was a kid, I used to keep a diary to write my problems. Instead of talking it out with my adoptive parents, I wrote them down. I did it because I didn't want to seem ungrateful to them. I wanted them to believe I was this happy little boy. After all, they were the ones who took care of me. One day, as my adoptive mom was sweeping through my room, she found it. I thought she was going to be so mad at me. I'd written some nasty comments in there. Instead, she hugged me. She told me to never keep secrets like that from her. That if I was feeling bad, she would be there to listen. Needless to say, I stopped writing in my diary soon after. Princess didn't say anything throughout my whole story, and I didn't know what to make of that. Maybe she was ignoring me, but I didn't want to believe she was. So I would take her silence as my cue to keep going. She wasn't born a man, but she was there. And that was more than enough for me. I'm not trying to pretend like I will understand what you feel. No one could. But I don't have to be your enemy either. Dick, pussy, it doesn't matter. That was probably the wrong thing to say, my friend. We're both people, and that should be more than enough for me to be able to sympathize with you. Don't you think? As I finished my speech, I heard her release a long and deep sigh followed by a sad chuckle.
You're an idiot,
she said before falling back into silence. I smiled at that, and then kept looking at her. At least she's not crying now. It's progress. We remained like that for a long time, none of us saying a thing or making a sound. I decided it was okay after all. I just wanted to keep her company. So when she made the first move to talk, I let her.
You really want to know?
Only what you feel like telling me. Okay.
You probably know this, but there's never been a female heir to the throne. It's customary for the first man born to inherit the crown. It's been that way even before the time of Andreas.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Well, you should also be aware that princes must serve a role to the family as well.
What do you mean? She looked away from me, towards the moon. I could finally feel the stains from the makeup covering her cheeks. Ew. Fun to see the stains from the makeup covering her cheeks. It was indeed a mess.
My father died. He was going to a political meeting in Columbia. I was only a year old, and yet...
Her eyes started to water once more, but looking at her, she didn't look sad. She was upset. So I remained quiet. I didn't want to fuck it up by saying the wrong thing.
He was going to promise my hand in marriage. He was going to sell me like cattle to a cardinal. His own daughter. How could he?
Oh. Oh, God. I can't even imagine how she must be feeling.
I spared for a few years. With my grandfather on the throne, he kept me safe in Rose Island, away from the public eye. This is the first time I've been here since I was a baby.
I'm sure the king will keep protecting you. Tried to cheer her up, but she didn't seem any happier by my words.
He will, for the few months he's got left on the throne.
Oh, right.
Brandon and I barely know each other, and I'm sure he won't doubt for a second a handmaid of them. Especially if he'll score him in alliance with the church.
After that, we both remained quiet. I got closer to her and placed my hand on her shoulder again, and she allowed me to. Couldn't believe her own family was doing this to her. It's just awful.
I met him tonight.
Who?
My alleged fiancé, Cardinal Cassian.
That explains a lot. That explains a lot, actually. Yeah, that explains a lot. Cassian. Almost choked on the word as I couldn't believe my ears. He was her fucking fiancé? That armless old man? No wonder she was crying. And, what did he tell you?
Nothing much. He just introduced himself and then... Well, I guess you can figure out what we talked about.
The marriage. She nodded and I could hardly believe her. What a terrible experience that must have been.
He proposed to me in front of everyone.
Really? That slimy old man. I'll have to ask her what happened next when... Dahlia, darling, the king wants to see you. None of us saw her or even heard her approaching, but Ruby sneaked up on us and almost scared the crap out of me.
Oh, goddess is a cat. God, looking at this, I'm a mess.
You are indeed, darling. Come, I'll escort you to the bathroom. Follow me. Ruby let Dahlia go past her into another hall, away from the party. Before she left, though, she turned back and offered me one last shy smile. Once the princess was gone, the maid turned her attention towards me, looking into my eyes with those red ones of hers. Then she said, "Thank you." Huh? For being there. She needed someone to talk to, and I've never been good with words. Now if you'll excuse me. As the maid had nothing left to say, she soon followed Dahlia back into the building. Took a last glance at the stars and then sighed. Man, I really earned a good night's sleep. Chapter 4, Before the Storm. And I'm gonna get something to drink real quick. I'm gonna grab something to drink real quick. Thankfully, it's right behind me. Come hither, tea. Ah. Is there enough for 2 streams? I think there is. I think there is. Like, I plan to split this up into 2. I plan to split this up into 2 streams. Should we stop or wait? Yeah, we're gonna leave off here tonight. I don't fucking know which is which. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to say. So, stay safe, have a good night, and I will see you all tomorrow.